Well, welcome to the PDP Dairy Signal. Glad to have you all back here today. Boy, we're going to talk about something that's really important to all of us. It's going to connect taking care of our cows better. It's going to connect running better businesses, being a better people manager. It's going to connect everything. And you'll have permission when you get done to sleep all night. Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about tips to create better sleep quality and what it means to our health, not only our own health, but how it impacts people around us and certainly our businesses. Before we get into that, though, I have a couple friendly reminders and actually a little bit of forecast for some educational programming that PDP is going to be bringing to you just this next week. We're going to focus on keeping those cows on their feet because hooves are made for walking. And we have the hoof management workshop that's going to be held both in New York and back here in Wisconsin on Thursday. That program, if you have folks that prefer to learn in their native language of Spanish, it is also a program that is simultaneously translated, like most of the professional dairy producer programs. And then for all of us who are excited to work with the next generation, and we have student interns, students that are with us for the summer or the semester that are here to grow their skills and also to help us from getting ancient and losing our skill. We call those summer interns at PDP and at Meyer Farms. We have a special program with professional dairy producers that's called Accelerate. And what we're trying to do is help them on their fast ramp to being ready for their next steps in their career. It's a one-day program, a special curriculum, and that will be offered July 28th, and it's going to be held at the Doubletree in Madison, Wisconsin. We welcome students from all over the country, any part of the sector of food, obviously dairy, if they're in allied industry or interning on farms, give them that day away. We promise we'll send them back to you refreshed. Well, boom, we have our good friend Morgan Ekovich. Now, Morgan always helps us. I talked about keeping cows on their feet. She is the one that helps us be able to touch our toes and stand back up straight again and reminds us that we are what we eat. So if you eat a donut every day, you're going to look like a donut kind of thing. We always learn great things from Morgan. But you know what? Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, and that is how important sleep is. And I always think that that's so redundant. We know that it's one of those habits that our body likes, that we need. But you know what, Morgan, before we have you jump into all of that, I don't think these folks have had really an opportunity to get to know you because you're one of our idols when it comes to an entrepreneur that started your business literally from scratch, and it has absolutely taken off. And we in the dairy industry always idolize people because a lot of us were entrepreneurs. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I feel like it's been a while, but I know it really hasn't been that long. You guys have me in a good rotation. But yeah, I don't think I've shared my story in a while. So, flashback to March of 2020 when everything shut down, including the gyms. I remember it was a Friday, so it would have been early that week. I was sitting with the other trainers that I worked with, and I said, "What happens if the gym closes?" No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, 4 days go by, and here we are getting an email. You have all been laid off. Gym is closing until we know otherwise. So immediately I went into this is not acceptable. This is something that I can't have happen at the age of 25. Not that it was in my control. So I sent an email out to all of my clients and I said, hey, whatever way we can make fitness work during this time period, we'll meet in parks, we'll go virtual, we'll figure out a way that works for all of us if you would like to continue. Half of them took it as a pass to like do whatever they wanted. The other half was like, yes, tell me how, let's figure something out. So throughout that time period, I had a few clients that moved to FaceTime or Zoom, and then I had a few clients that we'd meet in the park. And then fall time came and the gyms reopened and I went back, but I had some clients that wanted to stay virtual. They wanted to be able to be at their house and be able to be at their summer house while we still work together. So about a year went by. I'd filed my LLC, and October 2021, I actually left the gym and went out on my own because I felt like I had a sustainable basis. And it's been sustainable ever since. I've been able to grow and work with some amazing people. I've actually got to work with some amazing people, including the whole PDP staff, as well as being able to be at business conference and meet some wonderful individuals. I actually have two of which are onboarding in the next couple of weeks that I haven't worked with in a little bit. But just because we start something doesn't mean we can't come back for a tune up when life throws another curveball at you, because fitness is not a trend. Your health is not a trend. It's something we have to figure out and tune and kickstart and dial in over time. Sometimes we do really good, and then we need a little bit extra support.
Well, Morgan, you're such a gift to us because we have had a human health and safety initiative within professional dairy producers since about 2006. And that would include anything like working with the National Farm Medicine Center or through OSHA, making sure that our farms are ready and compliant, as well as we looked around and, it's really important that the people in rural America that are producing food remain healthy for our rural spaces as well, our rural economy. And we recognize that farmers, with the pressures and stresses that we have, that sometimes we need to be reminded to dial in on taking care of ourselves a little bit. So you fit as one of those resources under that human health and safety. And it's been nothing other than a pleasure to work with you. So just tell me, how many of the clients you work with are nailing it, just absolutely killing it when it comes to activity level, not just their standard. You've taught us that when it comes to standard activity, that isn't necessarily fitness activity, that we got to be really mindful of stretching and going above and beyond. And they're on nutrition, but they're terrible about getting enough rest.
Mhm.
Is that common, or is that just something that happens when you've been a X3X milker for 25 years? How does that happen? How does sleep become a low backseat?
Sleep becomes like it becomes that last thing that you think you need when all of a sudden you are a parent on top of taking care of a farm, on top of possibly running another business, and you realize that to-do list never gets shorter. So you may go to bed every night, which you should, but the quantity of sleep and the quality of sleep is not there because we've overfilled our plates. The hard part is typically when I talk to them, their plates are full of things they enjoy. They're not doing a bunch of things they absolutely hate that like, oh, I'll just offboard this. No, they're things they enjoy doing. They're things they love being a part of, whether it's volunteer opportunities or it's leadership or their farm in general or helping out at their kids' school. There are things that they have put themselves in because they want to be there. What that also means is we are up really late at night trying to accomplish the things that have to get done for the business so that we can wake up the next morning stress free, as well as we probably have to get up really early, depending on what our role in the farm is. So it's super, super common. And I also work with people who are not in the farming industry and who are just parents in general. And interrupted sleep as a parent, overall, you just know that's going to happen. Very few people are lucky enough to have kids who sleep all the way through the night.
I know one in particular whose kids sleep a lot, and boy, are they lucky. So, if we talk about sleep and rest as a nutrient, what does it do for our body? How does it work? How is our mind and our body and our cycle throughout the day? How does this all work, and why do we need rest and sleep?
Rest is the primary component to recovery for our brain to recover, for our muscles to recover, for our body to reset itself. So you've probably noticed there's been a point where you probably haven't got good sleep, and the next day you're kind of snacky and you're just kind of like, oh, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this. You have no real, I'm going to use in quotations, motivation, because motivation is different to each of us, to eat healthy that day or exercise. Yeah, it's because our body hasn't reset. Or maybe you've been moving a bunch of things. Maybe it's hay season, you're moving a bunch, and you're realizing your body is just tired and sore and achy. If we're not getting enough sleep, our muscles are not repairing itself. So when we work our muscles, we're taking very, very tiny tears in our muscle. And when we fuel it correctly and when we sleep is when those tears repair itself. Well, if we're not getting good sleep, our hunger hormone isn't being regulated. Therefore, we're not going to fuel our body correctly, which means those tears are going to take longer to recover. So from a physical standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, and then there's a study out there, and I forget which one it is, but for people who fall in a time zone change or a time bring forward, fall back, because some states and some cities don't abide by that. We
Daylight
do.
savings. Yep.
Daylight savings. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word for that. In there, just that 1 hour of sleep, there is more hospital visits because the lack of sleep for 1 hour. So imagine you not getting good sleep consistently, not just that one day a week or maybe those two times. You are putting yourself and others at risk for the speed in which your brain is going to be able to problem solve, stop a tractor, see something, and know that you have to react. So lack of sleep, I don't know, Shelly, have you ever been like, what did I walk into this room for? Because your brain is on overdrive. One, there's a lot going on, and two, you're exhausted.
A couple of times that's happened. I'm sure a couple of times. So
Same.
we always would tease at home because we were a family that, up until about 10 years ago, for 25 years without outside labor, we milked 3 times a day. And we would tease that we had to train ourselves to be fast sleepers because we were getting blocks of 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And like I said, that spanned over, a generation, 25 years. What is there something such as that you can get your sleep? And are there short sleepers? Are there long sleepers? Like they say 8 hours, but I can get 8 hours. Sometimes it takes 2 nights. That would be kind of the cliche that we would use. What is normal sleep? What's healthy sleep? What's the range? And just talk about some of that.
So normal is all relative to each person. So it's kind of like if you've ever gone to the doctor and you've been like, I go poop 4 times a day. Is that normal? I go once a day. If it is normal for you and it's a consistent type of stool, then that's okay. We're not all the same. Yes, we just talked about poop. But when we move into our sleep, the same thing goes. I'm not going to compare my normal to Cassie's normal when she has 3 kiddos. Our sleep schedules are going to probably look very differently.
Mhm.
When we look at sleep in general, we should be aiming for 7 to 9 hours a night. 9 hours, you guys are probably like, what the heck? How do I even get that in? Seven, you may even be.
Mhm.
Really, it's not just in the night. If we can get it just at night, that would be ideal. That is our optimal goal. But really, we're looking for 7 hours of sleep per 24-hour period. So maybe you get 4.5 from 9 till whenever. And then you can also take a 4.5 nap midday. Right there, you're at 9 hours. So thinking about 7 hours in a 24-hour period. Please don't tell me you take a 20-minute nap every other hour though, because I don't want that to be the routine. That should not become the normal. But based on your schedule, you may have to split that up and that's okay.
Okay. So you're shooting for that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And I don't know if our ancestors would have had as much trouble sleeping because their work was different. They were probably more physical. Even think how farming has changed. The stresses have changed. They're different. I don't know if they're necessarily more stresses, but they're different. And the amount of physical activity for a lot of us is different. Just think about milking cows, how a lot of that has changed, or nutrient dispersion, getting the manure out of the barn or having the cows outside 3 generations ago now to today, what a physical work day for a farmer looks like. Then think of our allied industry colleagues that are in going from meeting to meeting and in trucks all the time. How does our body get tired? The difference between mentally tired and physically tired, and how has that changed our need and our sleep patterns?
Yeah, so let's first talk about physically tired. When you move your body, there is a level of endorphins that happen that give you energy. But after a certain point, you do get tired, especially if you're not fueling your body correctly. At the end of the night, we've all probably felt the wired but tired effect, where your brain is still going a million miles an hour, but your body just needs to like lay. And getting up from the couch to get to the bed seems like the hardest thing to do, that you're just going to stay here. So our bodies can be tired, but our brains can keep going. And one of the things that I find that really helps with that is a brain dump before you go to bed. So all those thoughts that you're trying to remember of like, okay, got to pay this in the morning, got to make sure I call so and so, make sure that that's coming. Your brain is not meant to remember all the things. You need to have some sort of system to record everything that's being stored in your brain. 30-second to a minute and a half brain dump. Write down every single thing that's in your brain. Capture it on a piece of paper, little notebook, wherever you kind of plop for the night. Get it all out. Even a voice memo to yourself to get it all out of your head kind of calms that mind so that your brain can finally start to settle, just like your body is wanting to do. So that's a really good tool to use if you're somebody who's like, my body is exhausted, but my brain just wants to keep going.
Right.
If you're somebody who is brain is like completely taxed at the end of the day, having a conversation with somebody is the absolute last thing you want to do. You want to sit there and close your eyes, but you're kind of restless legs, maybe. That probably means that you're not getting enough movement throughout your day, that your body's like, hey, no, we've sat a lot, or I'm kind of achy because we've moved a lot, but I need to stretch. It could be a variety. So making sure you take time to stretch, because what that does is it helps lower your stress levels. Focusing on your breathing, it helps calm all aspects of the body, not just the physical body, but also our brain.
Okay. So you talked about brain activity and being a little bit brighter and sharper when we're well rested. What's happening in the body when we're getting good sleep? Like what is some of it's a lot of it's probably chemical. What's going on?
Your body's getting itself out of fight or flight mode. Have you ever noticed that sometimes throughout your day that to-do list is so long that you're just going faster and faster and faster? You never actually get to exhale and recover. When you sleep, your body actually gets to do that, which I've also learned recently as a parent. I don't think you fully get out of that phase until your kids are out of the house, because I watched my nanny kids and I could not get that deep sleep like I do when I'm on my own, because there's a level of alertness that happens. So knowing that, it's really important to focus on nice deep breathing, box breathing before bed. So it's nice big inhale for 4 count, exhale for 4, inhale for 4, exhale for 4. Slow and steady, breathing all the way into your belly, not just up here. And it helps you get back to steady, because we live up here, especially with the way technology is these days. We live up here with the dopamine hits, with the way social media comes at us, with the to-do lists, that our sleep is when we actually get to come back down here. If we can figure out how to turn off that brain and let that body calm, we get to finally get back to reset position.
So there was a doctor that explained it to me that when we get really good sleep, like truly a good deep sleep, he said it's like putting you on the rinse and wash cycle. Your
Hmm.
brain, your organs, your whole body goes on a complete rinse and wash, and you need that daily to be able to come back. That's when you feel really fresh in the morning. It's because you've had that complete cycle of cleaning. The heart, your heart muscle, your
Hmm.
pressure lowers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of chemical things that are happening, your metabolism, your whole body is in complete reset. How do we prepare ourselves? You talked about some of the breathing and you talked about the reset from, what did you call it? You said, um, when you're highly stimulated, but your body's tired. What did you call that?
Wired but tired.
Wired by tired. All right, walk me through more of that wired but tired. Some of it's probably the time of day that we eat, the stimulation that we're taking in. the conversations that we're having, like how do we come off of that avalanche or out of that avalanche and then go in to a good bedtime? What are some of the good habits to create?
First thing is the more you can keep screens out of your sleeping environment about an hour before. I'm not saying as soon as dinner happens, step away from them. We all enjoy a good scroll or reading our book or watching TV at the end of the day. I get that. But about 1 hour, if you can kind of get away from those screens, if an hour seems like too much, do a half hour, do 10 minutes, start with something small, but try to get those screens away. If you are somebody who sleeps with your phone in your bedroom, flip it upside down so that when your notifications go off, that bright light in the middle of the night doesn't wake you because things throughout the night can also wake you, like your thermostat. If all of a sudden your AC kicks on and it gets cold, a temperature change can wake you up, as well as a screen, as well as hearing something outside. So if we can mitigate as many of those, you'll be able to sleep all throughout the night. So leading up to bedtime, we want to make sure that when we are able to try to have a consistent bedtime. And that doesn't mean head hits the pillow, we are out. No, that means for me, it's between 9 and 10:30. Somewhere within there, I have put my phone in the other room. I have made my way to the bedroom. I am starting to lay down and kind of get myself ready for bed. Sometimes I put my head on the pillow and I'm out immediately. Other times it may take me a little bit. So having a book, we do have a TV in the room, but I have an eye mask because I just like to listen. So I put my eye mask on because I like to listen because it's like having friends, like putting on that emotional support show. Some people like to listen to the radio. Some people have a podcast, soothing music. Create a routine that is good for you. That's something that you know when this happens, your body now knows, hey, we're going into sleep mode. Because if you're running around the house like a crazy man, cleaning up all the things, getting all the things going, and then you go lay down right away, you're not going to fall asleep. Your body's way too up here. We have to gently bring it down. And that can look like a 10-minute routine, or it can look like an hour and a half routine.
So on some of our farms, we have rotating schedules, or for those of us who also are out in industry, our travel schedules are can be very variable. So bedtime schedules, you might be in an airport or you are driving across the Midwest. What do you do in those situations where your schedule is just not within your manageable control?
Yeah. So in that, think about the things that you can control, because you are right. There are certain things you can't. But what you can control is, okay, if I know I have to stay up later, we want to make sure you've got some sort of healthy snack to keep your body awake. We want to make sure you're drinking water. We want to make sure you're staying away from caffeine, only because when the time comes that you have to then go to sleep, your body takes time to metabolize it. So you may not actually be able to go to bed. So it's some people, I can have 2 shots of espresso and put my head on the pillow and be out. Some of us are like that. Others, we have a Diet Coke at 1 in the afternoon and we know we won't sleep till midnight. So everybody responds differently. So that's kind of a use your own discretion on that caffeine portion. Stay away from alcohol while you are in that position as well, because yes, it gives you the energy, but how many of us have had 1 or 2 beers and then all of a sudden we have the sleepies? And if you're behind the wheel or you are traveling and you kind of get a little nap, but you don't, it's going to then affect when you do get to that point. When you do get to the point where maybe it's 2 a.m. and you're pulling into the hotel, have 1 or 2 things that you can do that trigger your brain of it's time for bed. For instance, maybe it's a warm shower before bed. Some people like that is no matter what, they do a quick rinse off and that gets their body ready. And then they turn their alarm on, and maybe that's all they need to do. But have some sort of routine so that your brain knows when I do this, it is time for bed, no matter the time of the day.
Okay, we did that. Now, what's some tips for healthy waking up? My husband always says, well, I'll probably never have a heart attack. I'm certainly going to cause one because if I'm going to get going, I go from sleep to totally awake and go. He hates that. What is the best way to wake? I hate a snooze alarm. What's the best way to wake up and feel awake?
So the biggest thing when it comes to that is there has been times where you may get a ton of sleep, but you still wake up tired. It probably means that you have woken up in the wrong cycle of your sleep. So we have different cycles. There's a deep cycle or a REM cycle, and that's when we're like in our deepest dreaming. Sometimes, depending on when we've gone to bed and when we wake up in that really deep sleep. So we still wake up tired, cranky, irritable, no matter how much sleep we got. So that is something that you'll kind of learn over time. Every 2.5-ish hours is when those cycles kind of repeat itself. So keeping that in mind, that is different for everybody. My Aura Ring helps me determine what mine look like and where my cycles are. But I know, like, hey, if I wake up here, I will be pushing the snooze, or we pop up at 6 a.m. and we're ready to go because those cycles has hit. So just be aware that if you're like, I'm getting a ton of sleep, why am I still cranky? You try waking up a little bit earlier or a couple minutes later and see if that helps that cycle. If that is not the case and I do recommend, I do not do a great job of doing it all the time, I will admit. Try not to hit the snooze because every time you hit the snooze, you fall back in and you mess up that rhythm again because your body starts to get deep sleep. And then all of a sudden, we're up and we're mad again, essentially. So think about when that alarm goes off, setting it for when you actually have to get out of bed. A lot of us are chronic, set the alarm an hour, and then 45 minutes, then a half hour, then 15 minutes, then holy shit, I have to get out of bed now. Don't do that. Do yourself a favor and just set it for when you need to get up and give yourself that full amount of sleep.
My Lanta, if you're doing that, I'm sure you're single. If not, you will be. I mean, that would be the most irritating thing in the world. They have like six alarms going off. Just get out of bed.
I'm
Oh my
sure
goodness.
you will be.
Yeah.
So, and when your alarm goes off, the biggest thing I will say is the more you can just get out of bed and try not to be rushed. So, I am somebody who I get up and I know I like to make my coffee. I have my coffee, I have my routine. I don't always have a super slow morning, but when you can get up and give yourself even a couple extra minutes before you have to jump into the workday, you give yourself time to actually enjoy the rest that you had rather than going a million miles an hour, which granted, if you hit that snooze too many times, you may be doing that. The slower you can start your morning, the easier it's going to be to ease in and the more clarity you'll have in your brain.
I think that is a good point of, for myself, I love mornings.
Hmm.
And favorite morning, I always say if I can get up a little bit ahead of the rat, so I have a step or two ahead on the rat race, I know that I can, outpace the rat the rest of the day if I wake up early. But what I'm really trying to do is wake up so I can look forward to that quiet, no cell phone, nobody asking questions, nobody needing anything, just me, the dog, and a cup of coffee. That's usually going to be a good day, but also I look forward to it. Now, the other side of it is I've always been a morning person. Don't ask me anything difficult after 7 o'clock at night. Do we arrive in this world that way, or is that habit? Like,
So I've actually done a lot of research on this, and it's there's multiple theories out there. One of them is based on the way you were raised. So you're a lot of times people are not like you're not just going to be like I'm going to be a morning person, but typically the way you were raised, my mom always had us if we wanted to watch cartoons on Saturday morning, we had to do our chores before 9 a.m. cartoons started. I did not have cable, so Disney was on from 9 to noon, which meant what time were we getting up to dust and do our chores? Pretty early as a kid, but it was incentive. So I have noticed through college I could live on a lot less sleep and I could be up early or I could be a night owl, but I was always, no matter what, whether I was up till 2 a.m. or I went to bed at 9 p.m., somewhere between 5:30 and 7:30, I will wake up without a doubt all the time.
because it was
Same
habit.
now, it's habit. That is when my clock is. There's things out there that's like, well, based on your blood type, you have different wake up sequences. There's so many theories out there onto why it would be. I also know people who have never been morning people and they won't ever be morning people. They are the people who They've become morning people for work because they have to get to work. But on the weekend, they could sleep till 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon, and that's okay. So some of that is I'm like you, Shelly. Come 7 o'clock, don't ask me a question. My nanny kids ask me all the really wonderful questions that Google should answer after 7 o'clock
Yeah.
because I have no idea.
Okay. So the next one, the someone recognizes they're not in a good sleep pattern. They just are not. And there's lots of sleep aids out there. There's, my favorite one, if I have a hard time to sleep, is a cup of warm milk with a little bit of sugar and vanilla in it. Man, I drink that, and it probably sends my sugar meter off the chart. But I can usually sleep, like a half hour later or 45 minutes later. What are some ways to get yourself reset? And you talked about melatonin, I believe. Um, Give me some of your theories on that. And then there's Unison, and there's always prescription. Do any of those things work if someone's just really off the ranch of healthy sleep habit to get them back in sync? What's your thoughts and opinion?
So, melatonin, it is out there. It's something I'm not a huge fan of unless it's prescribed by your doctor, partly because our body naturally produces melatonin. And when we start to use a supplement, then your body is going to stop producing it because it's like, oh, I'm getting an extra source. So your body stops working to produce it. So one of the things I always look at is what does your life look like? What do your stressors look like? What is keeping you awake? Are you somebody who has trouble falling asleep? Or is falling asleep the easy part and staying asleep is the hard part? So we look at what does nutrition look like? When did caffeine stop? What does alcohol consumption look like? Are you hydrated? Have you moved your body? So all of those pieces affect our sleep. If we're somebody who averages probably 2,000 steps a day, who has a high stress job where they sit, but their brain is working, they usually are not getting good sleep because their body is not physically tired enough. So I always look at that portion of like, what does your lifestyle look like? And if that's the case, I try to see how can we make small changes there before we look at an over-the-counter sleep aid or a prescription or whatever option. I know people who are like, oh, I have to have 2 drinks before I go to bed. Okay. But then they're like, hey, I'm up at 2 a.m. Like, yep, because what's happened is it's all worn off and your blood sugar just spiked. And now we're like up and ready to go. And they're like, but it's 2 a.m. I'm like, yes. So if you are somebody who likes to have a glass of wine or a couple of beers at the end of the night, the closer you can have them to dinner time, the better. Keep them as far away from bedtime as possible. So I'm not a day drinking is great. Don't do it on the job. But if you're like wanting to go out for drinks with the girls or with the guys, do it earlier in the day so it has time to metabolize through your system so it doesn't affect your sleep in that aspect.
Okay, we're not advocating drinking alcohol here, but that
No,
was the
but we
timing
know
of
it happens.
if you do it, absolutely, in that system. So then, we've talked about caffeine. Caffeine is in everything. You can get
Mhm.
caffeine in soap now, and facial scrubs, and everything. What is that doing, and where does that fit in this balance of melatonin and the other great things that are happening in our brain? And how quickly do I need to shut that off? You talked a little bit about it, like everybody's a little bit different. You can have 2 espressos and go to bed, but how is it firing in our brain, and what is it doing?
So caffeine is just going to keep us wide. It's going to keep us awake. Energy drinks, coffee, tea with caffeine, pop with caffeine. The milligrams are different for people and how it affects them. But the sooner you can also quit those, I have a client who she was needing her Diet Coke towards the middle of the day, end of the day, and her sleep was starting to like not be good. And about a week went by. I'm like, okay, what have you changed? She's like, oh, it's cheer season. I've needed to get through, so I've been having a Diet Coke. I'm like, you need to cut that out, or you need to do that earlier. She took it back to being done with it by noon instead of 2 o'clock when the school day ended. And it's crazy. Her sleep went back to normal. So
Good.
the earlier you can be done with it, like a cup of coffee in the morning is great. I am a black coffee drinker right away in the morning. I love it. There's something to that feel. And like I look forward to my mornings for that black coffee sitting out on my patio. Come noon, 1 o'clock though, if you're still nursing that coffee, stop warming it up. Save it for the next day. Switch to water. It also probably means you haven't had enough water in your day if you're still re-warming up that cup of coffee.
So this one you haven't experienced, I know, because I know you very, very, very well. And that is there's the big H word, especially affects women, and that's hormones. And you hit that change
Yes.
in life, and that's just like going through a boat ride of hell. And it affects your sleep. Is there anything that women should know that are starting to have, maybe they were good sleepers and now they just can't go the whole night staying asleep, that might be helpful to them, or should they just go see a doctor?
So I've actually had a few hormone doctors on my podcast about menopause. And one of them is we have such a hormone imbalance when we start to go through perimenopause and menopause that it's really important that you're not going to go test and get your hormones tested because your hormones that day are only going to be tested for that day. Us as women have that lovely 1 month cycle instead of a 24-hour cycle. That being said, if you are somebody who is known to get night sweats, or you wake up and you have a terrible hot flash, it happens. Think about dressing light. Keep your temperature a little bit cooler. Preemptively prepare for that. You can always add more blankets, but keep your room a little bit cooler. It's also healthier to sleep with your room a little bit cooler. You end up because your body temperature rises. So it's okay to kind of like keep that room a little bit cooler. The other thing is there's so many things out there of, okay, well, if you do this, if you do that, go talk to a doctor and share with them the symptoms that you're feeling. And they will be able to give you a specific regimen of like, hey, you probably need a little bit more magnesium in your life. Magnesium is really good for sleep. That's another good supplement, but not everybody needs it. So if there's something that's really keeping you up or keeping you from falling asleep, go talk to them if you think it's hormonal related because we're all so different that we can generalize, but really you're your own person and we want to make sure that you're getting the care that's needed for you.
Okay, so Maureen, how many people do you see that are overweight, under energy, and they want to focus on just the exercise and their nutrition, and when you talk to them, it's this sleep word. Would you say it's a third or a half? Is it the underlying bear that hides in the closet, or is it pretty isolated to just a few people that you encounter? How common is sleep really the problem?
I'd probably say it's 50-50. I've got some real I've had people who are healthy from head to toe, but their sleep is terrible. And I have people who are not healthy, but their sleep is great. So for them, they've prioritized their sleep. Also, some of that boils down to that's what they feel the most comfortable doing. I can get sleep. The only thing I can do. The thing most people come to me and have more resistance on than me telling them to get more sleep is their nutrition. Because no one wants to be told what to eat. Not that I tell you what to eat, but they all think I'm going to shame and tell them, no, 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 you can't have that. So that is where I end up butting heads a little bit more with clients is in that nutrition portion. Their sleep wise, it's more of the hesitations of, I get it. Thank you for giving me the permission to get more sleep. Can you help me figure out how to make it happen? So we're more looking at, okay, what can we delegate? Where is our time going? Can we ask for help? That's a big thing is we're afraid to ask for help as humans. I feel like we've gotten to a point where we don't ask our neighbor. We don't ask this. I don't know why we've gotten there or how we've gotten there exactly, but it's okay to ask for help if it comes with you being able to be able to show up better.
Okay. We've jumped around, hopped around a lot on this whole issue of a better you through better sleep. What are some of the, maybe as we start to round out here our program, what are maybe like three or four things that you want to make sure that we remember or that we didn't cover?
So create some type of bedtime routine, even if it's just 10 minutes. For instance, I have a sleep mask. My bed always has to be made before I get in it. So I always make sure my bed is made. I make sure there's no laundry on the ground. My room has to feel clear. I put my sleep mask on. Those three things have to happen every night. It that takes what, 2 minutes to do, depending on. So something super small, get yourself in a routine of this is what happens. I do this, my body knows it's time for bed. So the first thing I would work on. The next thing is start to notice, are you someone who's running around and then you lay down and you wonder why you can't fall asleep right away? If so, try to stop doing some of your running around a little bit earlier. The email will always be there the next day. All of the things running through your head, grab a piece of paper, brain dump it, write it all down. Keep it next to your bed. So in the middle of the night, when you wake up and you're like, I have to do this, write it down, gibber it down, get it down there so that you can go right back to sleep and then wake up and be like, oh, yes, I documented it. So I don't have to try to think about it. Because a lot of us, we think about, I got to call this. And they think and they think and they think all night long. Stop your caffeine a little bit earlier in the day. I know a lot of us run on coffee and energy drinks to get us through the day when days are really long, especially if it's planting season or harvesting season, or we are down a man on the farm. Please try to stop your caffeine a little bit earlier. Or if you're not going to because you don't want to, at least switch it with some water. Make sure you are drinking enough water throughout your day. Remember, women need between 60 and 90. Men need between 90 and 120 ounces
Wow.
to, and if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So you should have been drinking water before that.
Okay. It's really good stuff. We always talk about people being healthy, but really, and we want, I think everybody wants to be healthy and to show up to be their very best. I think that's what you talk about is like showing up to be your best. But I think we sometimes forget to put that part of it in motion. And our PDP's safety and health initiative that was started a long time ago is to remind people while there's different elements of our business that are absolutely critical. The one most critical part of it is the mind and the heart that everything runs around. And all of you know who you are. Every single person is the most important person to someone else's world. But it starts with taking care of yourself. And if you don't believe that, think about what happens to your business when you're just flat out not there. And, I can tell you, I talked about those early years of milking 3 times a day, raising kids, working full time. But I didn't tell you how many times I crossed the center line and I could have killed someone else because I was tired at 6 o'clock in the morning when I had to hop in a car and go to a meeting. And that could have not only ruined and taken my life, but the worst thing is it could have taken someone else's. So those of you that are running equipment right now, moms that are just tired, you just can't even go one more hour. As Morgan said, ask for help. And it might be that someone comes in and cleans your house once a week. And that's one task you don't have. It might be that you hire a bookkeeper. It might be that you just need to take a break and get a day away, but nothing's more important than you. And the world does, unfortunately, the world will figure out to go without you, but the rest of your family, their lives will be forever changed. So take care of yourself, get your sleep, get your good health. And Morgan Akovich, you just keep going. You are a rock star and an inspiration of what true entrepreneurship is. Keep studying, keep learning, keep bringing great things to the people around you. And before we sign out, is there any final words that you have for us?
No, I think you have said that perfectly. Take care of yourself. The dishes will always be there. The laundry will always be there. The things that we like to feel are organized in our house that we're typically running around taking care of before we go to bed to reset, they will always be there. Your sleep matters more than those dishes. So
And
I like that.
if you truly think nobody else can do it and you're the most important person, then treat yourself like that. And with that, we love you and we value every person that we have in the dairy sector, our cheesemakers, our dairy farmers, the people closest to the cows, and all of allied industry. This is what rural America is built on. So let's be healthy. So with that, thank you, Morgan, and we'll see you again on the Dairy Signal. Reminding you, make sure that you sign up for Hoof Health. Keep those cows' feet were made for walking. And our student interns, we'll take them for one day, we'll inspire them, we'll send them back to you even better. So with that, make today your very best. Thank you.
Thank you.